Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got it!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Worked down by Burke. Bounces into Cody, puts it up, scores!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome in. Welcome aboard. Hope you're having a great day. If not, let's get it headed in that direction. Jim Coyle with you as always. Dustin Schutte here as well, as he usually is. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great today, Jim. How are you?
Wonderful. Lots to talk about. Recruiting, football recruiting, of course. We'll start right there. But plenty to get to. The NBA Finals is going on. There's always golf to talk about. Did you watch the match last week? I'm still just getting through it. I wish I would have, because when Bob Kravitz was on yesterday, he was talking about how I've got to go to Montana. He's never been to Montana, and man, they had bears on the course, foxes running around. It was amazing. Which, Florida's got the gators and the snakes, but I'll take the foxes and the bears because I've got you got bear spray and I think you got a better shot.
Well, yeah, I've never been up that way either, but it looked beautiful. I did watch it. I watched probably the last 6 or 7 holes. I have it recorded. I need to watch 1 through 11 or 12 or whatever that is. But it was incredibly entertaining. What I saw, it looked like it was, it looked like Aaron Rodgers was a perfect match there. He seemed to be not only entertaining, but he was a great golfer. So that was good. But to your point about the animal affair there, I've been on the golf course with gators before in Florida plenty of times, and they just don't bug you. So as long as you're not like going into the water trying to hit a shot out of something like that, you're probably pretty safe. So I would much rather see a gator. Now a snake, I'm going to run for my life. So I'll agree with you on that one. But the gators, they don't bother you.
Yeah, well, you can keep it all however you want. But some of those courses have all that magic going on. But of course, not here. So that's why I don't have to worry about that here. So I just have to worry about my horrible game. What else? Let's see. Of course, the big story for Indiana football, Omar Cooper, 4-star wide receiver, staying in-house, staying in Indiana, coming to IU, reuniting with his quarterback, Donovan McCulley on paper, at least right now. So you've got that, but more importantly, another feather in Tom Allen's cap offensively. They continue to gather offensive weapons. They're pretty solid. They continue to keep the room's depth, which has always been a problem at Indiana, but now they're getting there. I mean, Position by position, and that's what's been the most difficult. They would have a great receiver room or a great running backs room or this or that, but never the entire package. You've got to have offensive line, defensive line, offensive backs, defensive backs. You've got to have it all. Everything. Place kicking. The special teams. Indiana has that. Punting, kicking, long snapper. Tom Allen, he's thought ahead. He went and got a 4-year long snapper. All-American. He's thinking ahead. He goes, I want this stuff solved. And because every bit of it, it's like playing golf. You have to focus on every shot, on every swing, on every hole, because it takes one to blow up a scorecard. And that's the same. You've got to have everything to compete with Ohio State and Penn State and Wisconsin. And they're getting there. They're not gonna. I'm not saying they have the same depth or the same talent, but they've done a hell of a job developing that talent. But they don't have. So to say that Indiana is there on an even par with Ohio State, well, that would be dumb. But to say that they can compete with them right now, I absolutely say that. I look at last year as a perfect example. Hell, they should have won the game, but they can compete with these teams right now.
Right, and they've been able to compete in the past, even without that kind of recruiting talent. They've done a good job in the past, not every game, but they've done a good job of being competitive with teams like Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan. And what's really been lacking is the amount of talent and the depth on the roster, and they're starting to build that up. And what's really impressive about Tom Allen, and this might sound silly, but the fact that he's been able to recruit Indiana so well, because you look at typically Indiana has not recruited the state well, and the same can be probably said for Purdue, although I don't know off the top of my head what that looks like right now. But usually the top talented players in Indiana go to Ohio State, Notre Dame, Michigan, Penn State. There's a lot of really good programs surrounding the state that come in and poach some of those top 5, top 10 guys. I think it was the 2017 or 2018 class. It was the first time that all 5 of the top 5 players in the state of Indiana committed to either Purdue or Indiana. In the history of Rivals, 247, ESPN recruiting rankings. So the fact that you're starting to see that pick up, and now Indiana's starting to win these recruiting battles against teams like Notre Dame, against Purdue, against Ohio State and Penn State and some of these other schools, that just tells you the level that Tom Allen has raised this program to. They're not just going there to pick up early playing time. They're going there because they believe they can compete with these teams in the Big Ten East, and they can win a Big Ten championship. And as I said, once I was interested to see how teams like Illinois, Indiana, Purdue, even Michigan State to a level would start recruiting once the floodgates kind of opened up, once the dead period ended. And I think you're starting to see some of these programs. Penn State had a big 4th of July weekend. Indiana had a big 4th of July weekend. Minnesota. So, but back to the main point is just the fact that I've been impressed with what Tom Allen has done in the state of Indiana, because so many times the best players slip through their fingers, and they're starting to get these guys.
Yeah, Jeff Brum, who I know and is a great coach, was everyone. I wouldn't have been far off there. Expected he was just going to own this state. He got David Bell. He got who am I missing?
Rondale Moore.
Name. Rondale Moore. When he had those guys, I was like, oh man, they're just going to build it and start. But it didn't happen. They didn't produce, and injuries, whatever. They're not. They don't have momentum. They don't have recruiting momentum. Not in the state.
Not right now.
And not that it can't be gained, but I think it's a critical time for Indiana, because you at some point you've got to get on par with Notre Dame. You mentioned Notre Dame. Within the state. Forget about Ohio State, who is also coming, but you've got to get on par with Notre Dame, who is in your state. And although it's they're not in conference and they recruit nationally, it's still one of those. It's hard to turn down Notre Dame for a number of reasons. As great as the school as Indiana is, and it's a great school, Notre Dame is also, as from an academic standpoint, potentially a better school. It depends on what you're looking at. So it's decades and decades of history versus decades and decades of futility. So it's a difficult hill to climb, but Tom Allen's marching up and down that hill every day. So it will change. Things change, or they stay the same, and things change. So I think we're seeing that change. It's just, you don't change decades of futility against decades of success over one season or two, not in this sport.
Well, and I think the difference right now between Indiana and Purdue, since you mentioned Purdue not recruiting well, I think the difference is Indiana has the returning talent. They have the experience on the roster. So Tom Allen's looking to bring in new pieces to kind of carry on that tradition, or, to try to carry on that momentum, I should say, not the tradition. And he's trying to build talent and depth. The problem with Purdue was 2 seasons ago, they had 19 or 20 guys that were freshmen that were on their 2 deep. So what Purdue did in the recruiting trail this offseason was they brought in a bunch of guys from the transfer portal. I mean, I think they had 6 or 7 defensive players come in from the transfer portal who played at South Carolina, Florida, even Indiana, DeMar J. Lewis left Indiana to go to Purdue. So that'll be a storyline when those two teams play this season. So I think there's a difference there. But the big key is the fact that Indiana's kind of established itself, and it's trying to grow, and it's developing this depth. Whereas Purdue, when they looked like they had momentum, they kind of dropped off. And now that whole staff, Jeff Brom is kind of scrambling. They know that they have to have a good season. Tom Allen, I mean, to me, Purdue is coaching for their jobs this year. I think Jeff Brom is coaching for his job. They have to get to a bowl game this season. Whereas Indiana, they're not worried about a bowl game. They're worried about, can we compete with Ohio State? Can we somehow stay in Indiana, get to Indianapolis this year and compete for a Big Ten championship? They're worried about the Ohio States and the Penn States. Purdue's just looking to get 6 wins this season. So there is a difference on the recruiting trail. When these two coaches, I think both coaches are very good at recruiting. And I think they'll continue to recruit the state well if Brom is there for a while. It's just, I think it's a very different approach this offseason because of Indiana's got the experience. They have some of those guys. They got a lot of returning talent. They didn't have to do as much through the transfer portal, whereas Purdue and Jeff Brom, they're feeling the pressure right now. They know they have to win, so they went out and tried to get some experience and bolster that roster that's already still pretty young.
Yeah, if you would have told me a couple of years ago that we would be having a conversation and mentioning that Jeff Brom is potentially coaching for his job at Purdue, I'd have said you are out of your mind. Mm-hmm. He was the darling, clamoring. Even if that doesn't work out, I think he's going to end up at Louisville. Everyone thought he was going to be there the last time, and he kind of threw us a curveball and went the Purdue direction. I thought he was going to end up at Notre Dame until Old Man Rivers is just going to stay there forever. So he's not what's his name is not leaving up there anytime soon. So that kind of is out the door. But I thought that Brom thought he could build something at Purdue. Purdue's got, they have history, and he's a quarterback. They've got quarterback history. So sometimes timing and bad luck, and he's had some bad luck for sure. But man, I just don't think that. And I think that what Tom Allen has done has just put enough of a crimp. It took away enough of what margin that they had. And it's like, daggone. Tom Allen did it without that experience, without a lot behind him. And it probably surprised a lot of people.
You know what I think the biggest difference is I think Jeff Brom and Scott Frost kind of came into the Big Ten with similar mentalities. They were both offensive-minded guys. They're both quarterbacks. I think they came in with the thought that they need to get the best skill position players, and they would be able to wear down defenses. And I think the difference with Tom Allen is he had an SEC background. He knows how important play is. I mean, you've talked about earlier, offensive line, defensive line. That's the key to winning in the Big Ten. And so when you look at some of these Purdue recruiting classes, they've been really good, but where they've struggled to get pieces is the offensive and defensive line. I mean, look at how Purdue's run the ball the last 2 years. They've been dead last. They're averaging 82 yards per game on the ground each of the last 2 seasons in the Big Ten. Indiana, their run game hasn't been that good, but it's not because of the offensive line, in my opinion. It's more scheming. They've had some pieces there. They've been able to churn out games and win games on the ground. So to me, that's the biggest difference. I think that Tom Allen put a heavier emphasis, and he can still improve on this, a heavier emphasis on the offensive and defensive lines, whereas Scott Frost and Jeff Brom wanted to get all the best skill position players and try to beat these other teams with speed. And right now, it's just not that's not the mentality that's working. And you're seeing it. Nebraska starting to recruit more linemen, and you're starting to see Purdue recruit more linemen now because now they've figured it out. They have to be good up front in order to win.
Yep, Tom Allen was a foundation first kind of guy, and it's working. We've got more to talk about. Omar Cooper is going to be on with us today. Speaking of the 4-star wide receiver, he'll join us later. Matt Taylor as well from the Colts. Stay tuned. Indiana Sports Beat back after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans.
I checked in with Matt. I haven't heard from him yet, but excuse me, he might still join anyway.
Well, we're not expecting him to.
Well, he didn't say anything. But I mean, he's not on vacation anymore. But I have checked in with him to see if he would. I usually check in with him every time, let him know if he's good for 9:20, and he hasn't responded. But if not, I was going to ask, do you want me to see if Paul could join if he's able, either now or at 9:40? If Matt doesn't join,
Sure.
all right, I'll give it a few minutes. And even if Matt joins, I can still have Paul join at 9:40. But
Man, what's the West look like, Dustin? Wisconsin.
Iowa,
I mean, was
Wisconsin,
other than
and
Wisconsin?
Iowa,
That's
to
it.
me, no,
Well, Nebraska or
I would
Northwestern.
put Minnesota in. I think Northwestern. It depends on how good Ryan Helinski is. I think those 4 teams could win. The
Minnesota?
other 3, yeah. They'll have the best offensive line in the Big Ten.
No way, it's better than Ohio State.
They ran the ball. They had the best running back last season, and they didn't have 2 of their best starting linemen.
Well, best how by yardage?
Yeah, he had – what did he have? What was his total? God, he had an incredible season. 7 games. He had over 1,000 yards. I know that.
who are you talking about?
Mohamed Ibrahim.
But he's very good. But how much?
But I'm telling
Did
you, they did not have their 2 best linemen. They returned, I think they returned everybody up front, plus those 2 guys, Daniel Fa'alele and Curtis Dunlap. The question is defense. Their question is defense. Are they going to be good enough to stop teams? They'll look a lot like they did 2019. I don't know that they'll win 11 games, but
It depends on how good Tanner Morgan comes back from last year.
he'll be fine. But I think Wisconsin's the favorite. I think any of those 4 teams can win.
All right, I'm not sure if Matt's going to join, but Paul right now. Well, he told me he could join, man. He told me 2 days ago he'd be able to join today. Well,
I'm not worried about it.
I know. I just wanted to. Thought it might be all right. All right, we're coming back in a few seconds.
Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink. This segment is brought to you by Sam's Family of Restaurants. Fresh, local, family. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back on this Thursday. Just reading a tweet here. Oh, I lost it. That Mick Cronin, his brother, may have broken some news on a schedule issue, and I'm trying to pull that tweet back up. I think it was involving UCLA and Kentucky. Cannot find it though. Oh well. Daggone it. There we go. Nope. Marcus Card of Louisville is huge news for them. Ooh, did that happen?
Oh wow. Is that breaking news? Because that is huge.
Yeah, if that happens. So
I know he was considering Louisville. I didn't know if he made a decision yet or not.
Yeah, I don't know that that's a decision has been made either, but it's just amazing how the team's going to change. I talked about this yesterday. Kofi Coburn, if he were into Kentucky, that just it just makes you sick because they got CJ Frederick. It's like plucking in an all-star team.
Yep.
And it certainly defeats the spirit of what this is about. That's not college athletics. That's just like the NBA models. Hey, let's put together a superstar team, and it's crap.
Right.
I mean,
but it's the new era of college athletics. I mean, there's going to be so much movement. But I don't know. Again, we're coming out of a really weird year and everything new with the NIL, and I don't want to say that this is the case, but there's a potential of where could I go and make better money. And I mean, at this point, that could be a legitimate thing, and I'm guessing somebody close to Kofi Coburn told him, look, keep your options open. You don't know what kind of NIL deals are going to be out there. You don't know what you're going to come back to at Illinois. You don't know what you're going to walk into at Kentucky or wherever else he might be considering. So, I mean, this isn't going to be the case for every college student athlete, but for some of the big time guys who declare for the NBA draft, you've seen a lot of guys who have declared for the NBA draft and also decided to hit the transfer portal. So it's been interesting. I know Rutgers got some big news the last couple of days with Ron Harper Jr. and Geo Baker both coming back. So they're going to be a threat in the Big Ten again this year.
Michigan has got Hunter Dickinson back.
Yep. Yeah. And then Ohio State, Dwayne Washington, he's staying in the NBA draft. So that's a huge blow for them. But what's interesting is now coaches at the end of each season, not only do they have to protect kind of against and plan for the NBA draft and guys who might be leaving, but now it's the transfer portal. Who's going to be declaring for the NBA draft? Who's going to be hitting the transfer portal? We've seen a lot of teams be depleted by the transfer portal, and fortunately, Purdue and Indiana were not.
Look at Illinois.
Teams that did not. Illinois,
their coaching staff and players. Brad Underwood's in a little bit of a trouble there. I mean, he's gone from his 15 minutes are over. I mean, you talk about a flaming rocket. This is gonna.
It's not over. I think it's derailed from last season, but I don't think it's over.
That's man. He putting together a team like he had last year. That's going to be not in today's era, like you just said. The transfer portal, nothing's impossible. But to build a team, you see all the recruits and offers that Indiana's sending out. They're looking at continuing to build the team from the roots. I don't know how many. Some teams are not planning that way. I'd say Kentucky is one of those teams.
Right.
Kentucky is one of those teams that they're going to just bask off the fruits of others.
I think the mentality is pretty much going to stay the same. They're going to continue to try to recruit the 5-star guys, the one and done guys. And then at the same time, they're going to bring in, for the pieces that they don't have, they're going to poach the transfer portal and then, try to get that pair that young talent with that experience. And, we'll see. I mean, John Calipari was really the first one to go after the one and dones and kind of chase that model. And he was fairly successful with it. I know he only won one title, but he's one of the top coaches in college basketball. And so we'll see what happens when he does, if he continues to follow down this path too.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to getting into this fall. I saw a report yesterday ranking Big Ten coaches. I can't remember who was at the top, but I'm going to have to assume Ryan Day was. What do you remember the publication? Because yesterday
CBS
Sports.
Oh yeah, Ryan Day was. What
did Pro Football have?
Pro Football Focus ranked the top 20 coaches in the Big Ten, and Ryan Day wasn't on the list. Pat Fitzgerald was number 6. Tom Allen was 16 or 18. James Franklin was on there, and I can't remember who else was on there. But Ryan Day wasn't. Paul Christ, PJ Fleck, he was on there. Paul Christ
why all three of those coaches do that? They recruit, develop talent. And I'm not saying that Ryan Day doesn't recruit and develop talent, but Ohio State is a recruiting machine. You could replace Ryan Day, as you did. Just pluck him out. I'm not saying anybody can be in that position to win, but he was put into a position of luxury. You're put into the cockpit of a Maserati, of a Ferrari. Other guys are not driving these same cars in the race already. So he had an advantage right off the bat recruiting wise, but I think that list is accurate because you look at someone like Pat Fitzgerald, and he recruiting, and they win off of winning plays, winning. They don't have Ohio State talent. They don't have anything close to Ohio State talent. They don't have Wisconsin talent, or probably Iowa talent, but yet they're competing and beating those teams. So I definitely give it to him over in the West. And Tom Allen, for what he has done, where he has come from, it's amazing. But he's been smart enough to put the right staff around him, and he's learned a lot. He's learned a lot being a head coach since he took over. But I'm not saying he's better than this coach or that coach, but what he has done is, I think, more deserving of, say, Ryan Day.
Well, I'm not going to agree with that, because the thing, you look at what Urban Meyer did, and I'm not saying that you're right in the fact that Ryan Day has a great machine to operate with. He has all the tools he needs, but one of the things that was flawed on Urban Meyer is he had some staff members that couldn't get the job done. And Ryan Day, when he took over, got those guys out. I mean, he said he did not resign Greg Schiano. He brought in Greg Madison from Ohio State. He brought in Al Washington Greg Madison from Michigan, Al Washington from Michigan. He brought in Kerry Coombs, brought him back. So he's done a great job at surrounding himself with the staff.
What was the one coach that they don't have anymore? Jeff Smith, or what was his name?
At Ohio, Jeff Hafley. Is that who you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about the former coach that Urban Meyer brought with him from Florida that caused quite a bit of problems for.
Zach Smith. But that was before.
Yes.
That was before. So to me,
he finally faded into oblivion.
Who?
Zach Smith.
He's got a podcast out.
Does he? I don't follow it.
He's got a couple. Yeah, I've listened to a few episodes, but I haven't followed up with much of it anyway.
But I interrupted. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say that the fact that, and it's hard for me to ignore the fact that Dwayne Haskins was a first-time starter in 2018, and that was Ryan Day's first year on the team as a staff member, and Dwayne Haskins is a Heisman finalist. 2019, he's the first-year head coach. Justin Fields is a first-time starter. He's a Heisman finalist. So when you pair that with 2 Big Ten championships, 2 college football playoff appearances, never losing a regular season game, I don't disagree, but I don't know. There's not enough to, like, what can you ding him for? That's where I kind of would put Day on the list. If you want to put him behind some of those guys because he doesn't have the longevity or, whatever the case might be, then I'm okay with that. But he's got to be on the list.
Well, okay. He didn't build Ohio State. He hasn't done anything with them. He hasn't.
Yeah.
What I mean is nationally. He hasn't displaced Clemson or.
Well, they beat Clemson.
Well, but they haven't displaced them as. And I guess nobody can do this. Maybe it's a losing argument, but Alabama. I mean, they're no different than they were when he got there. They're at the same competitive level.
Here's my question. Do you think they're better now than they were under Urban Meyer? Because I do.
Oh, I'm sure that there's areas where they're better, but they're not achieving anything more.
Well,
not because they're already, but they're.
That's a fair case, but
I know that they're at a high level, and it's not. There's not much of a ceiling to go up other than win a national championship. But when you're handed the keys to a Maserati to go into a race that should be competitive in, the next thing for you to do is to win the race. To show me that you've done something with it. Win the race, win a national championship.
I mean, I don't disagree with that. I just think there were so many flaws with Ohio State in the 2017 and 18 seasons, especially on the defensive end, that to me, this team, what Ryan Day has done, they look better and on both sides of the football. Now, last year they had some issues defensively, and we saw that at times, and we don't, it's hard to say exactly why, but that's why I would put him up there, because I think they're better. I mean, remember, Ohio State didn't make the college football playoff since 2016, and even in that game, they got blown out, 38-0 or something like that by Clemson. So you're talking about 2014 since they had any success in the college football playoff. And in 2019, they were a few bad calls away from getting to the national championship, a blown lead, 16-point lead from getting to the national championship game. And then this year, they got to the national championship game, and then obviously Alabama flexed their muscle. So I think that they look better, and that's, again, why I would put – if they were finishing 11-1 and not reaching the college football playoffs, then I would probably agree with you. But the fact that it looks to me like they've elevated even further than they were, and they're doing so well on the recruiting trail right now, that's why I would put Day at least in the conversation. I'm not saying he has to be number one or even I agree with you on Pat Fitzgerald, Tom Allen, but that's why I would put him at least somewhere on that list.
And had this been a few years ago, I would have not had Tom Allen as high because I probably wouldn't have considered all the things that he has done, because from a head coaching standpoint, he still has some things to do better, I guess I should say. I think he still needs game experience, big time game experience, like the bowl games where you have to make critical decisions and you make the right critical decisions. And part of that, to me, is staying calm. And that's Tom's probably biggest battle, because he's such an emotional guy. The head coach has got to be the eye of the storm. He's got to be the guy that you look over there and he looks like Nick Saban, either pissed off about this because this didn't go right, or because they're thinking, they're looking ahead. You always have to be thinking ahead, 2 plays ahead. Where are we going to be here? And if you're all jacked up, and it's hard for him. I think that as he gets older, he'll get much, much better at that. But I think that still is a detriment of sorts. It's a positive. So it's hard to weigh that, man.
I think the biggest issue, and this is specifically to the bowl games, I think the biggest mistake Tom Allen has made, and he's done it the last 2 years, is allowing Kalen DeBoer and Kane Womack to coach in those bowl games. And I know, look, Indiana would not have been in either of those positions without those two guys. I understand him wanting to let those guys ride it out with the team, finish it out, and try to win a bowl game. But at the same time, when you're trying to run a program, you have to do recruiting. You're trying to get out with donors. There's so much other stuff going on that you have to deal with now as a head coach. And both of those guys are first-time head coaches. It's not like it's Steve Sarkisian or Lane Kiffin or Kirby Smart or somebody else who had been a head coach. I don't know if Kirby Smart had, but those are the examples. These guys hadn't been head coaches before. They don't know everything that goes into being a head coach at those programs. He should have just said, you know what, I'm happy for you, but we're going to give it over to Nick Sheridan, or we're going to give it over, I'll take control of the defense, whatever the case might be, because the focus wasn't there. And the 2 bowl games, Indiana should have beaten Tennessee, but you watch that start against that game in the Gator Bowl. They didn't come out with any fire. And then obviously last season they struggled in the Outback Bowl. So to me, those were the 2 biggest mistakes that he's made. And I mean, I don't disagree with you. He's probably got to calm it down just a little bit, but that's also not in his nature.
True. And like I said, it works both ways. I mean, there's a positivity to it as well. The players love it because they know that it is true, that it's genuine, and that matters a lot. Let's take a break. We got more to get to. Back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether you're looking for...
I'm reading about that bear killing that woman, man.
A bear killed a woman?
On a golf course.
Yeah.
In Montana?
What? He pulled her out of her tent.
On a golf course.
Pulled her out of her tent in the middle of the night.
Oh.
Was this a grizzly?
Yes.
I mean, this is where I got the golf thing. It's because he said this. Jim, you sure you want to golf in Montana? A lady was killed by a bear.
Oh. Yeah, I mean,
Dustin, I heard there was a golfing tragedy in your all's town the other day.
Oh yeah, there was. That guy's still on the loose.
Really?
Yep. Yeah, that was scary. That's probably 2.5 miles from here, 3 miles from where I live.
Wow.
Oh, I'm going to refill my coffee really quick.
What town was this in? He was in town. The damn bear went down to the post office. I'm not kidding. Where is this, though? It's got to be up north.
Up in Canada country or close to Canada.
Yeah, it's so beautiful up there. Jacobson Creek, tributary of the North Fork of the... Well, goddamn it. Still, that's from Helena, but it's so beautiful out there.
I can't believe you took a gig in Washington State and came back.
Why?
I don't know. It's just a big travel distance from one to the other.
Well, yeah, had to go. So man, being on the West Coast is different, brother.
Oh, I bet.
God,
especially in Washington.
Getting used to those times, man. I never could do that.
Were you in Seattle or were you in a different part of Washington?
I was on the east side of Washington.
Okay. Were you close to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho? That's a beautiful little town I've heard about.
I don't remember how far I was from Idaho, but it wasn't terribly far. Went over there. Walla Walla. I was close to Walla Walla, Washington.
Walla Walla.
North of Pendleton, Oregon.
All right, time to bring us back in.
It's $180 a month or a new 2021 Honda Accord LX front-wheel drive lease for just $270 a month. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back. I'm joined by Dustin Schutte, our good friend who sits in with us each week. We're going to have to get you to recut those, man, and add Dustin to that. He's on so much anyway. The Pacers are working out some guys. It's that time of year.
It is that time of year. Later this month, we'll see who they take with the 13th pick or if they trade it. Really interested to see what happens.
Trading it is never a bad thing if if you get what you need.
Basically, I think they're exploring all options.
The Pacers have got to hit. Here's the thing: the Pacers have got to hit this one. They cannot. You can't screw this one up, man. And it's not like you got a top 5 pick either. So right. It's more difficult. It's saying you can't screw up a top 5 pick is a lot more pressure, I think. But there's a little less margin for error down here, so you've really got to hit that thing dead on, which is why they've not done so great always. They've drafted the right guys, but not always either developed them or held on to them.
Well, I was going to say the thing is in my opinion, it's better to. I mean, you want a top 5 talent. Don't get me wrong, but if you swing and miss on a number 13 pick, nobody remembers. If you swing and miss on a top 3 pick, everybody's going to remember that. So I like where the Pacers are at. I like the history they have. Like I said, it seems like they're exploring all options. I think they just worked out Ayo Dosunmu out of Illinois the other day. They got some other guys, some guys that I've not heard of, but I've seen draft opportunity or mock drafts that have Franz Wagner. Franz Wagner. I get Franz and Mo mixed up, but him potentially landing with the Pacers. So I think they're going to have some good options. I like the team they have returning. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with that number 13 pick, who they draft, or if they trade it. I know they've been active on the trading block, already talking with other franchises to see if they can get some pieces. They tried to get. It sounds like they tried to get Ben Simmons the other day.
Is there a Curly Franzer?
Not that I'm aware of.
That would just complete the trilogy, man.
It would.
Not your good buddy Jeff Borzello looking for a help for a good breakfast spot in the Hoover Birmingham area.
Man, you got to ask the SEC guys that. That's where SEC Media Days is usually, or used to be.
Big Ten Media Days coming up. We are 2 weeks exactly away today. Big Ten Media Days taking place in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil Stadium. In 2 weeks from today, we will be up there doing the show from there. As a matter of fact, Dustin will be sitting right next to me, hopefully at this time, but we don't know what the schedule. Have you seen a speaker schedule yet?
I have not seen a schedule, but I'm assuming it's going to be. Usually they run that thing pretty early. So
well, it starts around 9, I think, and hopefully the coaches are speaking of ones that we care less about. But
I care about all of them.
But when they're on the dais, I don't really. When they're on the main dais, I mean, that's cool and all, but that's not the time. The time to get them is when they break off into the small group.
Right.
When you get them, you can sit there and ask them questions and talk to them, and they will stay there for 25, 30 minutes or,
right.
Generally however. And hell, I've got a picture sitting in front of Harbaugh 2 years ago when we were there. It was a bigger crowd, but it's only 25 people. So you've got them in a much more intimate setting. And so when they're on the dais, that's all the crap that they want for everybody. But you get the real questions, the real stuff in the breakout sessions, which starts after. But looking forward to being there and seeing who all is going to be there, the coaches. We see all what if we can get some coaches on the show. That's why I'm looking forward to getting the stupid schedule so we can start planning stuff.
Right.
Hate to see John have to plan everything at the last second.
It would be nice to know who's going to be speaking when, and then what players are going to be there. That's all. That helps everybody plan. But well, hopefully it comes this week. I don't know what the delay is.
Yeah, I don't know why it's just this big secret. I mean, it's just this is just for planning, guys. We know who the people are. We know who the coaches are. Just tell us what's the schedule, dude. It's only 2 weeks away. So yeah, there's that. And then, I mentioned yesterday. 1, 2, less than 3 weeks after that, 2.5 weeks after that, Indiana basketball is playing in the Bahamas. So we're on the doorstep.
After 4th of July, man, it's when it really picks up.
And you think it goes so fast. I've got a daughter leaving for college. It's man, all within the next 6 weeks. And it's gone. Boof. Poof. And which is great because life continues. But man, it happens so fast. Everything always does. But we've gotten through COVID, and here we are. We're on the doorstep of our first season, non-COVID season in 2 years.
Yep.
I am so ready. I the fans. Oh my gosh! I know in these fan craze places, it's going to be spectacular to see them out at the tailgates, to smell that smell. It's football tailgating. Even for schools that aren't successful, it just does stuff to towns. It's just a way to have fun. And not having that for an entire country of people that did that. There's a lot of people that did not get to tailgate at college and pro sports last year. A lot.
Right. And you talk about it helping out the local economy and the local towns and businesses. I mean, we need to see people out at these stadiums. We need to see them out in the area and supporting these local businesses. Go have fun. We had to do a year without any of it. So it's going to be so much fun to watch these stadiums at full capacity again, full tailgating, full pregame activities, all that good stuff. It's going to be awesome. This is the most I've looked forward to a college football season in a while, and it has, I look forward to every college football season, but this more than most.
I have seen rumors about Jalen Washington, the big time recruit out of Gary with North Carolina, but that's always the case. He's a 5-star. He's a superstar recruit. Everybody's coming after him. But, yeah, I don't know. Who knows? I don't know which way they're leaning. Rumors are rumors. Rumors are because someone said something, and that's all. Rumors are easy to get started. Not to say that this doesn't end up being true, but
plus, think about when you were 16 and 17 and how frequently you changed your mind on any one thing. So trying to make a decision on your college and where you're going to spend, depending on how talented you are the next 1 to 4 years. I mean, especially when you have all these offers and all these beautiful campuses and great coaches, your mind's going to change quite a bit. So I know people get paid to make the crystal balls and make predictions and things like that. And some of these people, obviously a lot of these recruiting analysts talk to these kids, so they have a good idea, but where they're leaning one day, they might change their mind a week later. And then a lot of these kids change their mind up at the signing period. They'll flip from one school to the next. So you never know.
Well, and this is not a surprise, because if you go to the Hoosier.com, Alec Lasley says that UNC has been in deep, and they have been the perceived leader for quite some time. And that was shown more when UNC brought its entire coaching staff to watch him at the Charlie Hughes up in Indianapolis a week or two ago. So Alex got him future cast to North Carolina for Washington. And that's a recruiting loss. But there are many more out there. That's more of a loss for, say, Purdue, Notre Dame. Indiana doesn't get the region guys much. They don't get the northern guys much, really. So, which is funny, because it's like Indiana is number one to a certain degree, and then right now you would put Purdue because of who they have, but generally I think that northern Indiana is equally split between Purdue, Michigan State, Notre Dame.
Michigan
is not quite. They have, but I don't put them in there with Michigan State. Michigan State has always gets a good one, but part of that was because Dane Fife was there. Part of it is because Michigan State's right there. Dane Fife is right there. So we'll see how that changes. And it's going to take a while for Indiana staff to get a foothold in any other region that they're not in, that they haven't had success in. Look, they just had lost success in the South when Archie Miller lost Trey Kaufman to Purdue, which that would never have happened. And I promise you, Trey Kaufman is probably kicking himself in the seat right now, because he's not going to get, if his goal is the NBA, he's not going to get that preparation at Purdue that he would have gotten at Indiana. And I don't think that there's anybody in this world that can dispute that. First of all, you just go on facts. Purdue doesn't put guys in the NBA, period. That's not what they do. Now you have a school that puts kids in the NBA, and you've got a coach that is more than likely going to be regularly sending guys to the NBA. So I would imagine that Trey Kaufman he would never say that, admit that. I'm sure he's happy with the guys, but if he had it to do over, I would bet he is in Bloomington next year and not West Lafayette?
Yeah, I mean, he could. I don't know. I don't know enough. I honestly don't know enough about the basketball recruiting side of things to tell you one way or another. But I mean, you can't really dispute anything you just said there. I mean, Purdue's going to have a better team next season, but you're right. They have not had success at putting guys and having guys with long careers. I think E'Twaun Moore is probably the most successful, and he's been a reserve. I mean, he plays for the Suns, but.
Well, and he's the only one, him and Carson Daly there.
Carson Edwards.
Yeah, I was kidding. Those are the only two Purdue players in the NBA.
Right.
So it's not an NBA producing. They don't produce NBA talent. You think back of Caleb Swanigan, how good he was. He's not there.
Right.
All these big guys they're good college players. I think that's why Purdue does not do well nationally. They don't succeed well nationally. They can compete here when the style of play is built on this Midwest bumping, the Big Ten is a grinded out kind of physical league, and they can play with that. But when you get outside of that and you have to make adjustments, they don't have success. I'm not making stuff up here. The numbers are, just go Google it. It's right there for you. I think we've got to we don't have to take a break. Omar Cooper is going to come up next, though. Looking forward to that. Make sure we get him on here. Indiana's newest 4-star receiver. What does that mean to Indiana getting him, Dustin?
It is another. You brought it up. It's another feather in the cap for Tom Allen. But to me, it's these in-state kids who see what Tom Allen is building. And again, when you look at Ohio State, the Notre Dames, Michigan, those are the schools that have typically gotten some of the top talent out of the state of Indiana. I think we've talked about it. You talk about it, and that you look at that graph of how Indiana's recruiting has changed over the past few seasons. And you're continuing to see this bump. You're continuing to see more 4-star kids, more highly ranked Indiana kids go to IU, and that just hasn't been the case in the past. And so I also think what the message is here, with visits opening back up and the dead period over, I think that having that interaction with current players is absolutely huge. I think having guys like Tywan Mullen, Reese Taylor, and some of these other kids speak to these recruits and say, hey, come to Indiana, because everything you see on TV, everything you hear about, that's real. That's what you see from Tom Allen. That's what you get. And we've talked about it too. Tom Allen is probably great at Zoom, but it's still not face-to-face. And making that face-to-face interaction makes a huge difference. And you've seen guys leave other jobs. We saw Charlton Warren leave the SEC to come to Indiana. We saw Dallon McCullough leave the Kansas City Chiefs to come to Indiana. So it's just an all-around really good sign. It helps with Indiana's depth and talent. It sends a message to other 4 and potentially 5-star recruits that we can go to Indiana, we can get to the NFL, and we can win games and compete for Big Ten championships. I think it's just an all-around good message. And then, again, on the field in terms of competing with teams like Ohio State, it just adds to that depth. What Indiana has lacked over the years, they've had really good starting rotations. They've had really good 11 guys on offense and defense at times, but where it lacks is those fourth quarter games. They don't have the depth. They don't have the same number of 4 and 5-star guys as the Ohio States, and they're never going to get there. So don't get your hopes up for that. But they can close the gap, and when you're able to close the gap, that's when you're able to be more competitive with those teams.
Yeah, and we just talked about Indiana basketball sending guys to the league. Indiana needs to send more guys to the league in football.
Yeah,
that makes a presence, and they have some guys in there, but numbers wise, it's not correlating yet, and so you've got to start getting more guys in there, because the more guys it's a representation. They've got to started getting more guys in there. I think that they will, because football is a process that is longer to churn over than any other sport. It just takes a little bit longer to get that momentum going. You're talking about 125 guys on a team as opposed to 13. So just imagine that's like managing 6 different teams inside of one team and then getting them all to act in concert. But they got to start producing the talent.
Well, not only that, but you look at what they have to do in basketball. Usually you just take the best player, right? I mean, if you're drafting later in the draft, you might address a concern that you have. We need a center. We need a wingman. We need a point guard, whatever the case might be. But usually you're going to take the best available player. In football, you have to address concerns. We saw it with the Colts. They needed a defensive end, so they went out and they drafted Kwity Paye. You have to fill certain needs. Teams have to fill certain needs. So not only is it just about the most talent, producing a talented player, you have to find the right team that's looking for the right guy at the right position. So there's a lot of different intricacies there, but I think you're right. Indiana's got to produce more NFL talent. They had some guys that had a chance to go this year. They didn't make the cut. We'll see what happens next year. I think Tywan Mullen and some of those guys on the defensive end have a chance to send a clear message. I think they have a chance to be some high draft picks next year. He's going to be one of the top corners in the game. And so it's going to be interesting to see where he falls in the 2022, assuming he departs, where he goes in the 2022 NFL draft.
Let's hope he's not. But we have to take a break. When we come back, hopefully we're going to have Omar Cooper with us, talk about his commitment to Indiana and what that meant to him. Back with more after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans, whether you're looking...
Omar is here.
Hey, Omar, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Pretty good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Been talking about you all morning. Dustin Schutte with Saturday Tradition.
How you doing, Omar? Congratulations on the commitment.
I'm doing good. How are you? And thank you.
I'm good.
Man, we're ready for football. We're just jacked. I'm just ready.
Me too.
I'm ready to be in a stadium. I'm ready to smell popcorn. I'm ready to hear people boo. Bad calls. Bad Big Ten referee officiating. Ready for all of it. How are you guys looking this year on the high school side?
We look pretty good. Only thing is our quarterback is about to be a sophomore, and he's only played freshman, so that's our only problem.
Man, yeah, that sucks for you after having what you've had.
Yeah, it does.
Man. Oh, well, you'll just shine that much more.
Yeah, hopefully.
I saw all y'all trying to round out Caden Curry the other day on Twitter.
Yeah, I've been texting them.
Yeah,
a couple other people.
Indiana has never had a 5-star.
I know, that's what I heard.
And I wish there's a chart that I always talk about, and they got their first 4-star in 2011, and you can look at it because it has the average recruiting was like a 2.5 star at that time. Once they got their first 4-star, it started moving over. Their average recruiting just slowly, you can just look at it year after year, just go up, go up, go up, go up. As soon as they get that first 5-star, but guys like you help immensely because you're right there, and it's just there's a sliver of difference, but but getting all these extra 4. You guys have continued to build that recruiting change, and they need to get that first one, man, that first in-state guy.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to get Caden. He said he liked it a lot, so I'm gonna keep trying.
Center Grove, man, they got enough guys at Ohio State.
Yeah.
Som's Ale House in Carmel and on 86th Street in Indy have a long list of craft beers and all of the right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back on this Thursday. Dustin Schutte with me as always, and joined by newly committed 4-star wide receiver Omar Cooper to Indiana. Omar, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Cannot complain. Dustin Schutte with us here as well. We've been talking about a lot of things this morning, but your commitment, one of those, that's a big get for Tom Allen. It'd be a big get for anybody, but it really puts a nice feather in the offensive cap of Indiana. I mean, you're one of those pieces that I saw one of the Rivals guys said that you make catches that other receivers just can't make. How important was it to you to get this commitment out of the way, first of all?
It was very important just to relieve some stress because the recruiting process can be very fun, but at the same time, it can get very stressful just not knowing where you want to go and how, and when you have a lot of options. So committing just makes everything better and easier.
Well, I'm gonna get. Was your mom a big movie fan? Is your middle name Sharif?
Nah, my dad, he got his name after his mom named him that, so I just got my name after him.
That guy was a famous actor, I believe, Omar Sharif. So that's why I asked that. I just happened to see that, but very, very cool. It's actually very cool. Coming to Indiana, staying in state. You know, a lot of guys you play with. We're talking about Caden Curry earlier, and you guys are trying to get on him. But staying in state and helping build the in-state program, I've seen what they've seen. How important is that to you to be a part of that?
It's very important. Just because it's just the state I was born in, and we were claimed a basketball state or basketball school, and to see that we would be able to turn the school program around in football, it'd help attract way more people and make the state of Indiana football team better.
Omar, you had plenty of offers from Power 5 programs from a lot of Big Ten schools. To you, what set Indiana apart? What made you say that you wanted to come to Indiana and continue to build on the momentum that Tom Allen has created these past 4 seasons?
Just the fact that it's home, and I like my quarterback Donovan. He went there, and he was a big help. He talked to me all the time about coming here and about it. And then I have another one of my closest friends since I was little, CJ Gunn. He's committed there for basketball, and we're really close. And he was telling me same thing, and we could like be together, roommates, and all that. So everything felt like it was the right place to choose.
So are you going to roommate with CJ?
Yes, that's what we've been talking about it, and I talked to Coach Allen and all. He said that's okay as long as it's on campus for the first year. So we gonna try to.
That's pretty cool. Now you guys have a connection too, though, because you play basketball as well, right?
Yes.
Now, did you miss last year because of injury?
Yes, I did.
Are you back this year? Are you gonna? Are you?
I will be. I'm still recovering right now, but
CJ's gonna need the help, man.
Yeah, we will. He will. But we should be good because we trying to get this one dude that I've always been really close with. That's like a top 25 in the nation player.
Now, you played in a state championship basketball game last year. Well, now you didn't get to play, you were hurt, but the team was there, and I know you didn't get to play, but getting to that level, getting to those stages, being around that and a part of that, how does that help you? What do you learn? What do you see when you get to those places?
It just helps you, like, folks, it just helps you out. Notice how hard you got to work to just be able to get there. It ain't just going to be easy. Every game's not going to be just a easy game. You just got to work hard no matter what. because some teams that aren't supposed to be good can just have a great game and it won't be good for you.
Omar, a lot of recruiting analysts have a lot of high praise for you. A lot of compliments, and you're one of the top receivers in your class. What do you like about Indiana's offensive scheme? What have you seen, and how do you think you can help the program? What skill set do you bring that you think is going to best help the program and help you? What skill do you bring to the program?
Just being able to, like Coach Hurd, he said how he likes how I attack the ball and catch this with my hands, and just how I go get the ball. And he likes what I do after the ball, so after I catch it. So I feel like my skills just after the ball and before I get it, because I can jump and get the ball over a defender, but I can also take the top off a defender by outspeeding them or something.
Seeing all the guys that were transferring in from USC, from Texas A&M, from Auburn, wherever all they were coming from, I'm sure you see that stuff on Twitter. Does that play a role? Do you see that, man, these guys are coming from everywhere coming in here? And of course, Delon McCullough coming in from the Chiefs. Does all that play a part in your decision-making?
Yes, that just shows that people are actually believing in Tom Allen and what he's doing with the team. So if other people believe it, then that means I definitely can believe in it.
And we hear a lot about LEO, and Indiana kind of went viral, if you'll say. They were the Cinderella, the darling of the college football season last year, going toe-to-toe with Ohio State, winning the way they did against Penn State and Michigan. I'm curious to know, how important was that culture at Indiana in making your decision?
It was actually a big one, because when I went on campus for the official visit, just hearing what all the players were saying, how they actually Leo actually is, and how it actually is for real. And then Taiwan Mullen, his mom and his brother, they was on the visit the same time as I was, and how his mom was just reacting and saying how great of a coach he was, and how they did her son, how he treated her son so good, and that it helped a whole lot for me.
Taiwan Mullen
is. I was going to say, I've heard that Taiwan Mullen might be the best recruiter in Bloomington right now. So it just validates when you say that you're getting advice from them that he believes in this. He was very confident. I remember when he was recruited as a freshman, before he even stepped on campus, he guaranteed Indiana would be a top 25 team. And I think by week 8 or week 9, the Hoosiers were number 24, snapped that Associated Press drought. And so it just kind of validates that Taiwan Mullen and a lot of those guys in that locker room believe it's not just Tom Allen selling a used car. He believes, and his players believe in him.
Yes.
Having guys like that, he's a great one to talk about, because I remember talking to him when he first arrived, and that's exactly how he was. He was the most quiet, confident guy, but being around successful people like that has been here for 3 years, how important is that to you? I know he's on the defensive side, but it doesn't matter when it comes to the mental aspect of moving from high school to college. It's a level up. You're the best guy on the team right now, probably, but you're going to a team that's full of guys that were the best on their team, and that competition. How forward do you look to being not just the guy, or trying to get back to being the guy that you are right now at the high school level, in the collegiate level?
I'm very excited to try to do that, because I'm always ready for competition and happy to do it, because I love competing, and I've always done it my whole life, because I've been a sports family, because everybody in my family went to college. So I've always been into competing, and it's just always been something I like to do, especially because my mom and dad went. So I always want to one up them and get further than what they did and do better what they did.
Where did they go to school?
My mom, she played basketball at Michigan State, and my dad played basketball at Louisiana Tech.
So it wasn't Michigan State's okay. It's not. I just thought you were going to say something else, but that's okay. No, I'm kidding. The IU offense has got to be something that makes you salivate because it's an offense that gets everyone involved. It doesn't matter if you're a running back, if you're a wide out, if you're a tight end, if whatever position you are, there's an opportunity for you to get the ball in your hands. And as a receiver, Indiana has shown over the years, they will throw the ball, and you've got a Michael Penix amongst others right now back there. So that's got to be something exciting to look forward to.
Yes, it definitely is. Just watching a lot of the games this year, I liked how they was just spreading the ball, and if a player was on fire, they wouldn't just not give it to him. They always find a way to just get him the ball in his hands. Running back, receiver, anybody who was doing good, they'd try to make a play where it just goes to him.
Omar, recently we've seen some guys who excelled at the wide receiver position at Indiana, guys like Simi Cobbs, Nick Westbrook, Walt Phillior, and Ty Freifogel recently last season. How much did their success kind of play a role in your decision-making?
It actually played a pretty big one because knowing that other receivers have been able to be successful in this offense, it shows that anybody can be successful if you just are willing to go and put the work in. So that helped me a lot, just picking my decision too.
And Indiana, a lot of guys, of course, are always looking at the future, wanting to get to the next level. Indiana is a school that you can do that. They're on TV all the time, and their recent elevation as one of the challengers to Ohio State in the Big Ten East. That has not always been the case, and now it is a reality where Indiana is, to me, they're along with Penn State, they are the only two challengers in the Big Ten East against Ohio State. But yet to open against, go to places like Iowa. Thoughts of playing in those stadiums at Penn State, in the Big House, in Iowa City. That has to be just exhilarating.
Yes, it is. I can't wait to be on to just get college experience and all the fans just being able to be in that big of a stadium and playing or just being a part of the team.
What's the biggest adjustment you think you're going to have to make once you get here from a football standpoint? Like I said earlier, you're probably the best player on your team right now, but when you go to Division I sport, you're usually one of everybody who is the best player on their team. You got to continue to work hard to stand out to get to that level. But what are you looking forward to getting here?
The biggest thing that's probably going to be different is just knowing that I'm not going to be the best player like I was in high school, and knowing that everybody else that's they're there for a reason. So they was really good in high school or one of the best in the state. So I just know it ain't no easy road no more. You just gotta always work hard and compete. And then what was the second question again?
I don't even remember. Yeah, that one was good enough actually. But I was just gonna say, how do you? What is it? Are there guys that you've watched that at Indiana said, man, I really like what he did or how he performed? Any former receivers who do you model as a receiver? You really can't model your game per se, but who are some of the guys that you like to emulate or just like their game?
I'm a really big Julio fan. That's why I wear number 11. So I've been watching a lot of Julio, and then Devontae Adams and Stephon Diggs, really. I've been really trying to watch their games and see what they do, what helps them a lot. Yeah, and also I watch a little bit of Chad Ochocinco, just because he's just a funny dude, and I just like everything about him.
Well, you missed Walt Phillior, so you'll miss that connection, unfortunately for you, because you would have got to be around a guy who brought a Chucky doll on one of the football trips last year. And I'm not kidding. I think it was at Nebraska where they came out with a Chucky doll he was carrying. But go ahead, Dustin.
Well, I was going to ask, last season, Indiana's defense was kind of a big talking point. They had a lot of interceptions. They led the Big Ten. They were one of the best defensive units in the conference. And so I'm curious, is that something you look at, knowing that as a receiver, you're going to go to a program that puts a heavy emphasis on the secondary? So not only have you seen success with the wide receiver position, but when you're going up against practice, when you go one-on-one, you're going to go up against some of the best in the Big Ten.
Yeah, that's just not doing nothing but that's just not going to do nothing but just make me better. Just knowing that I'm be going against some of the best secondary in the college level. It'll just help me get better every day, and it'll make me be able to just be relaxed when it comes to game day, because knowing how to win against the best secondary, one of the best secondary in college football the whole week, it just make everything a little bit easier.
And the receiving DB game has changed. I mean, I was a wide receiver DB in high school, but back then it was, give the space and this and that. Now it's a whole different game. It's in your face the whole time. The receiver is as much of a defender as the defender is much of a receiver. Seriously, it is a battle of who can get position and outwork the other. And it has become very artistic, I guess. If you're not familiar with the position, it is. I know the cuts have to be sharp, the passes have to be on, and even if all that works, you still have to make the catch. Although I am going to say this, I'm going to bust you all out, man. And I wish I could find that damn glove. I've got one of those. Here it is. This is a used one from last year. One of those receivers gloves that you guys get to use.
Yeah.
I want to know how in the hell. I wish my coffee was empty. You all drop anything with these gloves.
Man.
I've only got one of them, but I think that there is nothing that could get by me right now that if you threw me, even with one hand, this thing hits and it's like, no wonder those guys make one-handed catches. I don't have big enough hands for that. But I'm like, I didn't have this when I was in school, man. This is like a game changer.
It is.
I mean, so yeah, it's changed. The game has changed. But wow, how important is technology to the game to making superstars spectacular plays?
It's very important. It just makes it. Just the technology and all the stuff, new stuff that they're able to do, it just makes everything better. It just makes the game more fun. Just being able to do stuff with more technology and find out new creations and do different things that people have never seen or been able to do before.
Now, all the guys are in video games. Sorry, Dustin.
Okay.
Are you playing with any of the guys that are on IU's team now? Of course, some of your teammates are on there. Are you guys? I know the basketball guys are big into that. Do you guys into that as well?
Yes, definitely. I play Donovan a lot in 2K and Madden. I beat him pretty much all the time, but we still always play the game and stuff.
And go ahead.
Oh, Omar, I was going to backtrack just a little bit here back to your recruitment decision. You mentioned, kind of growing up, Indiana was always known as a basketball school. The state was known as a basketball state. So I'm curious to know when Indiana as a football option for you kind of came on the radar. When did you start considering it? Was it when they offered, or had it been before that?
It was when they offered, because when they offered, it was like, I want to say like the fifth school that offered, and it was like the second. They offered me. It was the second Big Ten school that offered me after Purdue. So it was one of my top schools. It was one of my favorite schools already, just because it was one of the first big schools that came after me and offered me and started recruiting me.
All right, let me ask that question. How important is it to someone who someone makes the first offer, someone makes the second offer? How much does it matter to you who makes the first offer? If a gigantic school. What if Alabama came in the ninth hour? That's going to obviously play a part in anyone's decision making, but but keep Alabama's out. Does whoever comes first, does that play into your thinking?
It depends because a school can be the first to offer you and then not really talk to you. But then there could be a school that first offers you and then talk to you a whole lot. So it just depends on if the school talks to you really a lot or if they don't.
What's coming up next for you? You've got to now, after all this talking, wait an entire year before you go through with this. You got another high school season, but enjoy your high school senior season, because let me tell you, it comes and goes fast, man. It comes and goes fast. Yeah. Your time at Indiana will come and go fast. As hard as it is to believe, and I'm sure you got 1,000 people telling you the same thing, because I did as well, and I didn't listen either. It does. It's mind-boggling, but enjoy your senior year. What are you looking forward to most of the upcoming high school season?
Just being able to go out there and compete with my boys one more time and just having fun at this point. I got college and all that out the way, so I got to stress about it that much no more. So now it's all about just going out there and having fun and giving your best.
Talk about your position coach.
Well, we have 2 on. One owns my dad. So, that's what it is. And then the other
How's that? What's that like? I know what it would have been like for me, which is not good. But how's that been like? Your dad played college sports. He played Division I sports. It doesn't matter that it was a different sport. It's of being under that microscope, that level of what you have to give at that next level. I think that's something else people don't understand. Everything is ramped up. What you have to give, how hard the work is, how hard the fight is, how much you have to compete. Everything gets ramped up. And I don't know that people understand that also goes to the mental side of things. You're not going to have your dad there, which has probably been a comfort and a curse at the same time. And I get that. But he won't. What's that going to be like to have been around him and not have him there?
On the field, we bump heads a lot. But it's just how things is. And but just after the field, when we off the field, we get along really well. That's like my best friend, really. And just him going D1 and playing college sports, he tells me a whole lot, and how it's just because he already been through it, so he know more than I do. So I just try to take in whatever he tell me to try to make me better for my future, and really.
Well, man, I wish you the best. Dustin, you got anything?
No, it's I'm looking forward to seeing you in the Big Ten, and good luck with your senior season, and we'll see you in 2022 when you're suiting up for the Hoosiers.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see him for some games.
I have one funny story if I have time.
Oh, please tell all the funny stories you have.
Well, most people don't know this, but ever since I was little, since freshman year, I played quarterback my whole life. And then I got to LN, and Donovan was there. He played quarterback, and he was big on offers and all that. And so I was very athletic. And then so my sophomore year, my coach said, you can either compete against Donovan and try to win a starting spot, or you can move the receiver and see if that helps a lot. And I just knew I couldn't compete with Donovan at quarterback, so I had switched to receiver. And sophomore year was my first year ever playing receiver in high school.
It's amazing how things change when you take a path that you didn't expect to take. I did not know that. That's a great story, and thank you for sharing. Now, that happens in college a lot, and as a matter of fact, Reese Taylor is a perfect example of that at IU right now, who was a great quarterback in high school, but came to IU at the same time with Michael Penix and a lot of other guys, And it's not that he's not a great quarterback. It's just that Michael Penix was born with this surgically implanted laser in his shoulder. and I mean, what's it been like to see him throw? I mean,
Michael Penix.
Yeah.
It's actually he throw very well. He throw kind of weird to me because it's very different. But it's like he throws, like how he throws is just different, but it gets there, and he has one of the best arms I've seen in a while. So I
assume you've not gotten to catch any passes from him since he's been hurt, and there's no crossover there. I think of it in rule violation, but just watching him, yeah. Well, let me tell you, have you seen him in person?
No, not yet. I have not.
Well, TV does not do it justice. I can tell you that. That's the weirdest thing because it's like, wow, where is that coming from? It's like RoboCop. It's like he hits a button. It's weird, man. He's just got a laser on that thing. And but yeah, looking forward to it, brother. Looking forward to thank you. Looking forward to it. Thank you for taking the time. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. Omar Cooper, Indiana's latest commitment on the football side, 4-star from Lawrence North High School in Indianapolis. 2023. We'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether you're looking for...
That was fun, man.
Yeah,
thank you. Can't wait to get you back on again. We'll check in on the season, see how the season's going. We'll get you back on during the season.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Omar. We appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
That was he could have been a quarterback. I mean, all these guys
Isn't that
great
crazy?
athletes.
First year playing wide receiver was what? He said a sophomore?
1,000-yard receiver.
Yep.
Wow.
He's got back-to-back 1,000 yards, but I don't think he's going to get it this year if that sophomore quarterback sounds like.
They just don't know how good he is yet. It's probably just a lot of question marks with him. Hopefully he's good enough to make Omar look good.
Yeah. Well, if he was playing with Hoover from Texas, he'd probably get about 2,000 yards receiving.
Ooh, you ain't lying about that.
Put those two together. Hello. Didn't even talk about that. All the quarterbacks Indiana's got coming.
I know he might be thinking that McCulley would end up being the starter, which he could be, but I mean, it very well could be Josh Hoover as well by the time they come around.
I mean, yeah, Donovan's going to be his guy.
I wonder how that affects certain people. Like, let's just say Hoover down the road gets the starting job.
That won't matter down the road. Once you get to where you are, you kind of got to be about you.
Yeah.
Like I said, Reese Taylor came here as a quarterback. He's a punt returner and defensive back now.
Mm-hmm. So he was in that same class with Penix? I couldn't remember if he was the same age as Penix or not.
Who? Taylor?
Reese Taylor.
Maybe a year younger, same class? I don't know.
That is a good question. I don't know either.
Because I feel like he came in with transfer Richard Lego, but I could be wrong about that too. I don't know.
Man. I used to have all my stuff here. That's why I got to move, or I got to moved. New studio. Got to get a new studio. We're going
to. All right, go and bring us back in.
Whether you're looking for a new or a used vehicle, Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington's got you covered. They're Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. For deals like this, how about a new 2020 Honda Civic LX front-wheel drive lease for just $180 a month? Or a new 2021 Honda Accord LX front-wheel drive lease for just $270 a month. Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back on this Thursday. It almost feels like the weekend, Dustin Schutte.
It does. It really does.
We're there, man. We're almost there. Short week.
I didn't even put that together.
Well, short weeks are always great. That would be the greatest thing, to have 4-day weeks every week. It's, Of course, I'm sure it would eventually. There we go. Penix and Taylor are both in the 2018 class.
There we go. Hey, question answered.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Ryan. Appreciate you. Pete, my buddy Pete, up in Too Cold, Wisconsin, says, Minnesota. Omar sounds like a great kid. Glad he'll be here. He is a great kid. Yeah, that's another good thing. All these kids. Tom Allen. Good kids. I saw this. Can you believe this? RBO Sprint hit us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline that they just announced no fans for the Olympics as Japan declares a COVID state of emergency. I know that they did that yesterday. They declared that, but it's unbelievable that the Olympics have been coming for 4 years. COVID happened under 2 years ago, but they've had nothing but time to get in front of this and didn't. I don't know how you do that. How does Olympic Committee not do it? How does everyone not do it? I just don't understand.
I don't know. I don't know enough about what's happening over there, so that's going to be weird. That's for sure.
Are we going to have sex dolls in the stands? Oh, I guess that's only if it was played in South Korea.
Well, I don't know that story, apparently.
Last year during the start of COVID, all we had for sports was the Korean Baseball League. And in lieu of spectators, they put what were blow-up dolls in the seats.
Okay.
And they got busted out for using sex dolls as their deal. But Japanese Prime Minister Yoshida Suga declared a new state of emergency in Tokyo on Thursday that will run through the Olympic Games to combat rising infections in the capital and spread of the contagious Delta variant. In light of the announcement, the organizers of the Games held a meeting Thursday evening to discuss whether to implement further restrictions on spectators or whether to ban them entirely. They are due to announce their decision at a news conference just 2 weeks before the Games are to be opened on July 23rd. I think that announcement has already been made. So, well, what do you do if you had tickets to go to the Olympics? What do you do if you had flights and hotels to go to the Olympics?
That's a great question. I assume you're going to get refunded your money.
As an Olympian, what's it going to be like to compete in a spectatorless stadium? I mean, I don't know what it's like for other than like soccer games. There's so much going on in like the track stadiums. There's not like it's just a buzz, but not really cheering. So it'll be different. It'll be like a qualifier or something.
Well, I was going to say it may not be that. I mean, it's going to be different. There's no question, but I can't imagine it's going to have that big of an effect on a lot of these like track and field sports, swimming, a lot of these sports that don't have a lot. I mean, they do have a lot of fans, but it doesn't play a factor. A lot of these people are probably used to running in front of minimal fans or no fans. So will it be different? Of course. It's an Olympic stage. You'd love to be doing this in front of thousands and thousands of fans, but I don't think it's going to alter performance all that much.
The rate of new coronavirus infections in Japan, though, is at fewer than 2,000 new cases a day in 800,000, and 800,000 in all, is a fraction of the rate in Britain, which had 32,000 new cases on Wednesday but is hosting the final of the Euro 2020 soccer tournament on Sunday in what will be a packed Wembley Stadium. So you've got Britain, which had 32,000 new cases on Wednesday. Japan is at fewer than 2,000, but England will be hosting. Wembley Stadium will be packed with, what's it hold, 100,000?
Good question. No idea.
The fact that most people in Japan have not been vaccinated means the infections are proportionally more dangerous there. Their daily death toll in Japan, averaging around 20 a day, is over the past week roughly comparable to Britain's. So,
okay.
There's that.
None of this seems to make sense to me, but whatever. We can move on.
It's the Delta variant that they've talked about. That so the Olympics will. A lot of Indiana performers in this: swimmers, divers, lots in that category. A lot of Indiana, some IU students. So a lot of Indiana contacts there.
I mean, it's sad for a lot of the Olympians, or all of them, I should say. But imagine going to the Olympics for the first time. That's, and that you don't get to experience it. If you've been there before, at least you got to have that experience of being there in front of a packed stadium, or whatever the case might be. So I feel bad for those who this is going to be their first trip, because it could be your first and only trip to the Olympics. And
I wouldn't care.
Well,
it would be better with fans, but man, I'm not going, screw it. Who cares?
If you get a gold medal, you probably, yeah. Or if you medal at all, you probably don't care.
You'd be dancing. What's the whole athlete flag controversy?
I have no idea. Athlete flag.
RBO Sprint says between the lack of fans and the
are they talking about
kneeling? I don't know.
During the national anthem, maybe?
What are they doing?
Well, so I'm not trying to get political here. This is what happened. It looked like the women's soccer team, I believe it was. There were pictures taken where it appeared that some of them turned their back to the flag during the national anthem. But what it looks like actually happened was that there was a presentation of the colors by the military at midfield, and then there was also a flag on the other end of the stadium. So half the team was basically turned facing this flag, while half the team was facing this flag. So it appeared via the way you can manipulate the photos. Yeah, the way you can manipulate photos, it looked like half the team had turned their back on the flag, but I don't think that was the case. I think that there was just, I guess if you want to call it, confusion as to where to look during the national anthem. I don't think there was much controversy there. It was just how the photos were manipulated, because that's what we do. We have to cause controversy no matter what the hell's going on. We're not happy unless everybody's unhappy.
That's right. You got to cause some problems. Wouldn't be any fun without it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Why would it promote happiness?
Caden Curry. Daggone it. Didn't talk to Omar about Caden Curry. Well, we did in the break. They're all on him. Trust me. They're all texting him, but that would be a hell of a flip. I don't expect it, but you've got a lot of guys, a lot of big time guys that are saying, hey man, come on, let's do this.
Well, the best recipe is to go out and win some games this year. When you have that plus guys texting you, let's.
Is Curry a 23 guy?
I'm not sure. It's a good question. I don't remember off the top of my head.
No, Curry's in the 22, like Omar and Dustin.
Well, I was going to say, so anything can happen. Remember, Dason McCullough said he was 100% committed to Ohio State, even though his dad took the job at Indiana. He said it's going to be fun to beat him for the next 3 or 4 years. And then all of a sudden, he decides he's going to flip. So even though he's committed now, or, anything can happen. You can flip, you can change your mind, whatever the case might be.
Yeah, that would be something. That would like I said, that's the beginning. That would be the beginning of a new chapter for Indiana, a new start. You get that when you get that first one, it will not be the last. They will follow. It's weird that you got to have that first guy that to take that first step, but it's just mathematically proven. Once it happens, it happens.
Right.
And it's also wild, though. You can look. There are teams that have gotten 5 stars that are not nearly. It's like, how did they ever get 5 stars? They've had 4 or 5 through the years, and they're not a very good program. It's odd sometimes how it works out. But to never have gotten one, Indiana was close with Gunnar Kiel. That's probably as close as they've been. I think he was a 5-star. But yeah, just and probably there's some guys in the past that would have been had that been around. But then a lot of times the stars don't mean diddly. It's what you do.
When you, right. That's what a lot of people, talk about. There was a kid, I don't remember where he ended up, but I read a story the other day. He was a 3-star by both Rivals and 24/7 Sports, and he had 40 offers. So what do those schools know that the recruiting analysts don't know, So you can always look at the stars, obviously. There's some validity to what they do. These recruiting analysts are very good at what they do. So, but don't believe that the stars are the end all be all. You can have a 5-star guy. Hunter Johnson's a great example, 5-star quarterback who started out at Clemson and he transferred to Northwestern. And he struggled. He's obviously battled some personal things through his college career, but just because you come in with a 4 or 5-star rating doesn't mean anything. You have to go out and you have to prove it. You have to work. So Indiana's what we've talked about. Tom Allen recruits the guys that fit his culture. He gets the guys in state. With good attitude. He wants guys that know that they can win, that aren't intimidated by the Ohio States and the Penn States and the Michigans. And we're continuing to see that. So even more so than looking at the star ratings, Tom Allen is saying who fits this culture, who wants to come into Indiana and win. And, just from the kids we've spoken to who have committed recently, Josh Hoover, Omar Cooper, you can tell that those guys are confident and they want to be part of that LEO culture.
Let's see. Xavier Johnson transferred from Pitt to Indiana. He's not the only one leaving Pitt. Jeff Capel, man, he's having a little some problems there, leaving some players. Tom Crean is not having a good go of it at Georgia. Kofi Coburn, he's, he pulled his name from the draft. I don't see him, there's been talk of him in Kentucky. I don't see that happening. If he doesn't go back to Illinois is totally screwed. But then I'm like, okay, where the hell is he going to go? Not that he couldn't go anywhere. Everybody would welcome him with open arms. I don't understand why he pulled his name from the draft. I don't see how he's not draft ready as any. He is just big, massive, and strong. And there's nothing else there but raw talent. If you're going to take, the Romeo Langfords of the world to develop them on your own, why the hell are you not taking a Kofi Coburn who is a man-child? Does he not have the upside that a lot of people think because he doesn't have shooting? Not a shooter.
I think if this was the 1980s or 1990s NBA, he'd be a top 10 pick. But because of where the game is now, and you have to have guys that can defend everywhere on the floor, you have to have guys that can shoot from everywhere on the floor. He's probably, I'm guessing he was projected as a second-round pick. And so he's going to try to work on certain aspects of his game to try to crack that first round. I don't know. I didn't see if there was any grades or any projections given for him. But I know from all the mock drafts I've seen, he was not projected as a first-round pick. And I can only guess that's why. Again, in the 90s, he would have been one of the top guys because of his strength, his size, his ability around the rim on both ends of the floor. But in today's NBA, man, you got to be able to shoot the 3. You got to be able to defend the 3. And I don't know that he's quite to that point just yet.
We got to take a break. We'll come back and finish it out. Stay tuned. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans.
To clarify about Caden Curry, he hasn't committed to Ohio State. He's projected to commit to Ohio State.
Right. Yes.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. 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 And it's like, I'll be honest with you. If Trace Jackson Davis does not have one hell of a season, he'll be coming back. He can leave if he wants. He'll leave. He'll leave because of pride. But I got news for you. If he doesn't learn how to use that right hand this year, he better come back.
What's interesting is that when Mike Woodson convinced him to stay, when he made his announcement on Twitter, he said, "I'll be back for one more season." Like he knows he's only going to stay for one more year.
Yeah, well, that's pride talking.
Mm-hmm. And who tells? I mean, if he gets hurt too, that'll obviously keep him back. So,
I think.
Well,
I think a lot of players who enter the draft do that, though. I remember. I think Io said the same thing after his freshman year. He said, "I'll be back for one more year," and then obviously he came back last season.
Well, they don't see who's coming behind them,
right?
For one thing.
So I think I don't think that was an indication. I think that's just pretty common among kids who enter the NBA draft. They think they're going to be going next. I mean, I would probably be that confident too.
Well, because they don't know about Filip Petrusev from Serbia. They don't know about Ariel Hakpatuti from Germany. They don't know about EJ Onu from Shawnee State or Kessler Edwards from Pepperdine. Or
remember Kristaps
Ismail Kazmagati from France. Or man, Johnny Juzang is all the way down to 30. Gee whiz.
Man.
He pulled his name out though.
He did?
He's returning. I'm pretty sure he pulled it out at the last hour. I think he's
like just now?
No, he had to do it last night before midnight.
Well, that's what we ought to be talking about.
All right, well, go ahead. Here we're coming back in 20 seconds.
Who's left in the draft?
Tender steaks and seafood. Sam's Ale House in Carmel and on 86th Street in Indy have a long list of craft beers and all of the right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink. This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back on this Thursday here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Dustin Schutte with myself as we are looking over the NBA draft. Last night you had to pull out was the deadline to withdraw your name. And who was it we were just talking about? You said you thought
Johnny Juzang. I'm pretty sure.
Johnny Juzang. I'm sure that makes Michael Lewis and Mick Cronin happy, because they were so good last year, and they didn't. Who was the guy that?
You would ask that, and I was just thinking about that too. I can't remember his.
They had a lottery pick that got hurt and didn't play that missed the last half of the season. That's how good they were going to be. And now you got Johnny Juzang coming back. That ought to be fun. Trying to figure out who took their name out, who is remaining in the draft. Cade Cunningham, of course, sitting at the top. Jalen Green, Evan Mobley, Jalen Suggs, Scotty Barnes, Jonathan Kuminga, Davion Mitchell still in. That was a projected pick for the Pacers I saw a minute ago, but here he's number 7, Bouknight, Keon Johnson, Jalen Johnson, Franz Wagner still in. See if I see any other not a lot of Big Ten names.
I think did Aaron Wiggins stay in out of Maryland? I think he might have stayed in. Dwayne Washington Jr. out of Ohio State.
There's Desumnu, Io Desumnu is in.
Joe Wieskamp and Luka Garza, both from Iowa.
And Iowa's going to be decimated. CJ Frederick to Kentucky. Man, Iowa and Illinois both are just going to be decimated. It's going to be a year of fortune, I think, for Indiana in making this transition, because they're going to be obviously a better team than they were last year already. And teams in front of them are not going to be as good. Indiana is, I think, a top 4 team in the Big Ten now. It's crazy, but that could be better. I mean, that could be a top 3 team. Who knows? Purdue's loaded. I think they split with Purdue. I think they break this seal on this stupid losing streak, and they split the games home and home. Purdue's loaded with a lot of talent, but they're not loaded like Kansas loaded like Duke or Kentucky. It's like they're loaded for Purdue with a lot of in-state talent. Well, that's nice and all, but we'll see. It's going to be fun.
Well, whether they split or not, they absolutely have a much better chance than they've had the last 4 years.
Well, they certainly do not need to lose 11 in a row to Purdue. That would be just in this day and age.
That's unheard
it's already an embarrassment beyond of epic proportions. Archie Miller's tenure just left a stain. The only coach to start 4 seasons of losing seasons of Big Ten play. I mean, it's
what's crazier, Indiana losing 9 straight to Purdue or Michigan losing 8 straight to Ohio State
in football?
Yeah. Those are the 2 biggest rivalries in the Big Ten in football and basketball. And since I started at Saturday Tradition, I've not written about Indiana beating Purdue in basketball, and I've not written about Michigan beating Ohio State in football.
It's crazier. I still say it's crazier, even though it doesn't sound that way. Michigan has fallen and not gotten up, and they fell before Jim Harbaugh got there. Mm-hmm. He just has not been able to get them up. But at the same time, Ohio State rose to a new level that they were not even at before. They entered that neighborhood, that executive neighborhood that most places have. They've been living in that neighborhood.
Right.
Michigan, if they're in that neighborhood, they're in the old section of that neighborhood. So basketball is easier to come up with an upset, so that one surprises me more. The fact that has gone this long surprises me more. It does it with the facts behind it, knowing that it didn't matter to the previous staff. There was no playing Purdue didn't mean jack. When Bob Knight came back, the team was not out on the floor seeing him at halftime. They're in the locker room getting the same old BS bullcrap from the same guy saying the same crap that didn't matter. So nothing mattered to him. So it's got to matter.
I think it was more surprising. To me, the more surprising thing is the fact that Indiana lost that many, is on that losing streak, because Purdue had some good teams, but they also had some not so great teams in that stretch that Indiana should have beaten. Ohio State has been good for that long. Michigan was up there. They were in some games, they've been competitive. But in Ohio State, at least with the Ohio State and Michigan, you can say that Ohio State really didn't have any bad years. They had some years that weren't as good, but they really didn't have any bad years where Michigan you thought was going to get them. There should have been there were years when Indiana's roster was way more talented than Purdue's, and they still lost. So that to me, and like you said, because an upset in basketball is easier to get, especially when you're playing in one of the best arenas. You're playing 2 of those games every year. One of them's played in one of the best home court advantages in college basketball. It's just But the fact that those two best rivalries have not flipped in the now 5 years I've worked, it's crazy.
Tomorrow, Rick Bozich on the program, Hall of Fame writer, joins us. Alec Lasley also joining from thehoosier.com to get you caught up on basketball recruiting, where we are, where we're going. As the offers have slowed down finally, we'll get caught up on then who's where, who's favored to go where. Dustin, I'm not sure what he's doing tomorrow. He may be with us. You never know.
It's a mystery.
It's always a mystery, but it's going to be fun. It always is. It always has been. It always is when Dustin's here, brother. I appreciate you. I can't thank Omar Cooper enough. Great to talk to him. You tell he's just a fun kid. Looking forward to seeing that guy get on the field and play. Looking forward to this football season, period. Let's see. Did I forget anybody, John, the producer?
No, sir.
All right, good. It's a rarity. I got to thank Dustin Schutte, of course, but most importantly, thank you guys. Without you all, there wouldn't be anything for us to do, but we'll be back tomorrow to do it again as we get closer to football media days and all that. Stay tuned. We'll keep you updated on all things Big Ten and around the state of Indiana. For Dustin Schutte and John, the producer, until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.